Yep. Good morning, everyone. So, yesterday we learnt about class components events. So, we discussed about events in class components, how to handle events in class components, and we learnt about bind method. So, why bind method is required and how to use without bind method events also we learnt about that. So one more concept we need to learn about events. Right. So what we learnt is how you define the events, how to handle the events, and one more concept we discussed about forms, forms and validation in class components. This also we learnt yesterday. So class components, how to use them, how do we work with the class components and forms inside class components, why it is different in class components is because class components will not allow hooks. We cannot use the libraries related to hooks. So then we have to use formic components. So one example I showed you. Today we will see one more here, that is controlled components, controlled class components, controlled class components. So how to design controlled class components? Actually, we learned controlled function components. How to design controlled function components? What are controlled and uncontrolled components? Uncontrolled components are absolute and controlled components are relative. Controlled components are controlled by the values of a parent. From parent component, we pass the values and the component will use those values. And how we pass the values? We generally pass the values by using properties, by using properties. In function components, what we have to do is explicitly we need to define the properties and pass the properties. But what is the speciality about controlled components in classes? Here, I am not explaining about what is controlled component, already we know definition. Here, only one additional thing you need to know. Class comprises of built-in props. Class comprises of built-in props. It contains built-in properties. So class comprises of the built-in properties. So these properties can control the component behavior. These properties can control the component behavior. Can control the component behavior. So explicitly, we don't need properties. Built-in properties are present, we can directly use them. And what is the data type of properties? Object type. So props are object type with a key and value collection. Properties are object type with key and value collection. And we can use these properties directly. Actually, the concept is all keys of properties props are dynamic. All the keys in properties are dynamic. Dynamic means you define the names according to your requirement. They don't have any predefined names. And these names are resolved at runtime of application. So generally, in our function component, I will show you a simple syntax. This is function component. In function component, we write a function and the name and props. And what we do is we have to use these props. So we need to use the props anywhere we can use. That means like props dot key. We have to use the properties like this. This is in function component. Now in class component, what we can do is when we define a class, the class name extends react.component. And obviously other concepts are same. It will have a constructor. The constructor will call the super constructor. And here we have a render method. The render method is going to return markup. This markup can directly use this dot props dot key. It can directly use that. You don't need to configure them anywhere. You don't need to define the properties anywhere explicitly. Directly they are inbuilt available. You have to just use this dot props. So properties are directly configured. They are inbuilt available for every class and you can use those properties. In function component, we need to configure them as in function component, we need to configure that as parameters. We need to define them as parameters. So we need to define them as parameters. Now we can directly control them and we can directly use them here. We can directly define them here. So already properties are present. We can use those properties. So let's see how it works. Already the class components, we know how to use them, and controlled components also we design. For example, we designed a grid, we designed a nav bar, we designed a dynamic grid, and here everywhere we are using what? Props. Through classes, how to create controlled components. Let's see. I will go to controlled components. In the controlled components, I will add a new file. So let's name this as toolbar.jsx. I am creating a toolbar. This toolbar must be customizable. I must able to design according to my requirement and implement according to my requirement. Already we have nav bars and all designed like that. So what I will do, I will create a simple export class, and the class name is toolbar. And this toolbar extends. So it is going to extend React dot component. And it should have a constructor which calls the super constructor. And it should have a render method which returns the markup. Here I will use a div. For this div, I am using a simple class as btn toolbar. btn toolbar is a bootstrap toolbar class. We have a ready-made toolbar class. btn toolbar, and here we are using bg danger something. Later we can customize that also. And this is a deflex justify content between. Okay. Now in this we have a span. Here we want to display the company name, whatever the application name. Then we are expecting application name. Here I will use not span button because I am using a button toolbar. I will use the class name as btn danger. And here what we will do, here we need to put a dynamic. Here I am expecting the name of the application, then that is dynamically passed. Then we have to use this, have a props. Props are inbuilt available. We need to just access the props. And dynamic name. Dynamic name, any name that you want to give to the property. And what is the name title? That is the dynamic name we are using. Okay, next after that, I will add another div. This div will have a class called btn group. That is a button group. In this button group, I want some set of items. Those items also dynamically changes. Some application will have some items, another application has some another item. So I'm using dynamic. In the dynamic, I'm using this dot props. I'm expecting menu items. Menu items. Okay. So we have two properties. One is title, another one menu items. I'm expecting menu items as an array. So I will map. I will read every item, and for every item, I will create a button. This will have a key with the item, and it will have a value as item. And this will have a class as btn some tool btn danger, like this we are giving. Now this is the collection of items we need to display here. Collection of items. Okay. Next, I want another container, and in this container also class as btn group. And in this we have buttons. These buttons are fixed. btn danger, bi, and bi suppose person fill. Okay, so this is what the button we are giving, and suppose BI some heart fill, and here we have BI have a gift box. Okay, we are adding some options. Now what is the gift box or cart for? Okay, now this is the toolbar we created, and this is a controlled component. And how to use it? Let's try to use that in our project. So let's run this. And our application is now currently starting with admin login actually. It is starting with admin login. So the admin login will start. Now in this component, we want to use the toolbar. Here already we are using a form and I want a toolbar. And how do we use a toolbar with our own content? Then at the top, I am adding a header. In the header, I want a toolbar. So you need to import it first. So we have to import. What is it? You have to import toolbar. Toolbar from controlled components. You have to import the toolbar. And it is a controlled component, so you know how to use it. What we have to do, we have to access toolbar. And the toolbar requires some properties. What are the properties it is expecting? Title. Title, what is the title? So title is a string. I'm just passing the title as suppose a shopper, something. And it is expecting menu items. Menu items is another property, and it is expecting an array here. I will configure an array with home, with the shop, so with pages, so with blog, some menu items what we want, docs like this. Automatically a toolbar will be designed with that. So where is React? So in the toolbar, acha, we haven't imported it. Import what to import? React, from React, because this component is derived from React component. Now the toolbar is ready. That means we are having a toolbar with our own content. Whatever content we want, we can define that here. This is a simple toolbar with custom content. We are having custom content, but these buttons are fixed everywhere. If you want, you can change these also. You can change colors, you can change the theme. Already we learned how to use controlled components. Only the point, how to design those controlled components using class. You can try the grid, you can try the nav bars, you can try the dynamic grids that we have learned. Conditional rendering is same. We learned conditional rendering. That means if anyone asks, can we have multiple render methods in a class? You can have. Using the conditions, you can return different content. Render is only same, but return will be different. Render method will be only one, but what it returns can be different. We learned conditional rendering now. We can implement that conditional rendering. Everything is same. Now, how do we use this toolbar with different color themes, different effects? You know how to do that. Whenever you design the toolbar, generally in the toolbar, these color themes, you can take dynamic. We can expect a theme and you can use the theme dynamically. So any number of times you want, you can use a toolbar. Just what I want another toolbar, then another toolbar I am designing. And this title is having something like Amazon. It is having menu items. Menu items is expected with an array. So here we are having, suppose Amazon Home. It is having like electronics. So it is having like mobile, fashion, something. And another toolbar comes with that. I'm just adding here additionally just a class name is margin top, some 2 or 3. Then it will get that and display there. Achha, the class name is to be defined there. Na? Here we will give, yeah, this is having a margin Y as 2. Then obviously it will have some gap. The colors, the effects, everything you can change. So controlled components are always same. Only the point is the controlled components are controlled using properties, and all the properties of class components are built in. You have to dynamically define and use them, right? This is an example. And one note also I will give here. So you can implement conditional rendering in class components. You can implement conditional rendering in class components by using various decision making statements in render method. You can implement conditional rendering in class components by using various decision making statements in render method. Decision making statements, if switch all these, you can use to render different contexts. So this is an example. I will copy this example. What we need to do is go to controlled components. This folder we already created. Add a new file, and what is it? Toolbar dot what? JSX. In this toolbar JSX, we are adding this design. I will copy this design. That is toolbar JSX, and go to any component. So and import toolbar. Here I am using admin login dot what? JSX. In admin login JSX, I am importing the toolbar and using it. I will copy that. I will keep that here. We are using the toolbar in admin login. This is the concept of class components. So the complete process, how to design and how to work, we have seen. Style binding, class binding, event binding, data binding in class components, controlled components and uncontrolled components. Actually, before React 17, React.js was like this. Even today, several projects are like this. That means everything classes. But now in modern React, we don't recommend classes. We always use only functions. So because already I explained the drawbacks of using class OOP concept, what is the issues in that. And I already showed you what originally React people recommend now for the developers. So what did they recommend? Using functions. Now, while working with components, class components, we have another important topic. Another important thing you should know is component life cycle hooks. Component life cycle hooks. Actually, here the component life cycle hooks are component life cycle methods. So you should not get confused with this because hooks are not allowed in class. Then earlier they used to call the methods as hooks, but now the hooks means functions. Hooks means functions. Earlier in older version of React, they used to call these life cycle methods as hooks. But now hooks means it will change the meaning. So earlier it's fine, but now it changed the meaning because now hooks are not allowed in classes. Hooks are allowed only in functions. And better you say life cycle methods. But people who work with older version, they still call it as life cycle hooks, no problem. But here life cycle hooks are not functions. They are what? Methods. They are methods. Life cycle hooks are nothing but it is the concept of understanding how component works. Life cycle means what? What is life cycle? A life cycle defines various phases from start to end. A life cycle defines various phases from start to end. From the time the component starts to the time component ends, it has several phases. Those phases are considered as component life cycle. As I already told you, it doesn't have much importance now in modern React because we don't have classes at all. We need to just concentrate on functions. But in interviews, we can expect questions on this because for experienced people, they expect multiple versions. That means if you put 2-3 years experience in resume and you apply for jobs, they expect knowledge of both classes as well as functions. And you will get majority some questions in classes also. Classes related some questions also they ask. So now, and why you need two versions to know? Because the experienced people are kept in projects where we migrate from one version to another. That means the experienced people should know migration techniques. Migration means older version to new. How do we change the content? Because many experienced people are now kept in the place where migrations are working. That means they are upgrading from old version to what? New. So as of now, what is life cycle hook methods? How it works means how a component actually starts. To crack interviews and to justify experience, you should have very in-depth knowledge about how it works. I will show you step by step, level by level. Several phases are there. We will try to understand so that we can answer anywhere, any type of question asked in life cycle of React. Let's see how it actually works. So it is a very big concept of several phases. I will explain one by one. First at high level, then we go into low level. Actually, first step you need to know is we designed one React application. We are creating a React application. So this is our React app. React application is present And in this React application, we have some components like home component, we have login component, register component, like that. We are having some components. So we are having some components like home, login, and register. And in React application, actually React application comprises of a startup page. What is the startup page? Startup page is index.what? HTML. This is the startup page. Index.html is the startup page. Now this index.html, that index.html gets the logic from where? It gets the logic from where? It gets the logic from index.js. Am I right? All the logic for index.html comes from index.js. We don't write anything in index.html. Index.html just contain a root, na? It will contain a root container. So actually in index.html, it have a div with ID as what? Root. It is having a div with ID as root. And the logic for index.html is coming from index.js. It is coming from index.js. And in index.js, what is present? In index.js, actually you have a root.render method. Na? Root.render method. It renders some home component. For example, it renders the home component. Where it will render the home component? It will render into document.get element by ID. Am I right? Get element by ID. Which one? Root. Into the root it is going to render. Get element by ID root. It is going to render into the root. Okay. That's what it is going to do. For understanding sake, I will keep it small. Later I will share this into your code. Okay. This is the action happening inside it. That is the action happening inside. Okay. Now, one more important point is that, what is it? This is the basic concept. That means we have a React application, index.html, and the logic for index.html comes from index.js. Okay. Now what happens is, this application is actually running on server, and where this application is running, this application is running on http://localhost 3000. That is the port number where your React application is default running. Default application is running on this particular port number. Now, this is high level design. Later so much will be there. So we have a client. Client is the user. And this user is using a browser. So this user is using a browser. And from browser, he will make a request for page. From the browser, he will make a request http://localhost and 3000. From the browser, when he makes a request, what happens is, first, this request will go to application. Do you know in browser, Actually, what happens is I will open the browser. In browser, this is the search bar, address bar. Here I type www dot some amazon.in. After typing any application address, I hit enter. When I hit enter, it will send the request, get the response, and it will load the content. Can you tell me what is the event name it is using here? Which event it is using here? For example, button means click. Drop down means change. Text box means change. This is text box, huh? Text box means it will work on change, but on change it is not loading Amazon. Na? What it is doing, it is waiting until I finish typing. After finish typing, when I hit enter, then only it will load it. So what is the event used by browser to load any HTML page? It is not click. It is not on change. It is not on key up, key down. It is not on blur. On blur, on focus also not. Because see, I typed some address. After that, if I use tab key or click outside, will it open? It will not open. I have to hit enter now. So on which event a browser loads any HTML page? That's a very simple question, but it very complicated. Every web page opens in browser by using one event, and that event is every browser uses an event called DOM content loaded. Every browser have one event called DOM content loaded. On this event, the requested pages are loaded in browser. After typing any website address or any page address in the address bar, of browser, when you hit enter, this event will fire up. And what this event is going to do, it will get the index page. This index page it will get. It will get the index page and it is going to load this index page. That means it will get that index page. And after that, it is going to load that index page into the browser. It is going to load the index page into browser. That is the first step. What happens? You can see anywhere, you can identify that. Actually, you see now, suppose I am opening this browser, right click in browser and inspect. I will inspect the browser. In the inspect, go to network category. In the network category, you open the network category, you request Amazon and hit enter. When I hit enter, you can see it is loading all the content of Amazon. And you see the event name. What is the event it is using? DOM content loaded. This is actually event name. On this event, every page is loaded in browser. Whatever you request in browser, it is loaded by browser on a particular event. And what is that event? DOM content loaded. That means this DOM content loaded is an event which loads the page. But see what happens is it will load the HTML page. When it loads the HTML page, do you know what happens is that HTML page contains, so it loads, actually it loads the static DOM. It loads the static DOM. First, it is going to load the static DOM. Static DOM. That means when you request a HTML page, first it will load the static DOM. Static DOM means what? That means the browser is going to display the DOM, but that is called a static DOM. The browser is going to show the static DOM first. That means it is going to display the static DOM. Static DOM, it will load. What is the meaning of static DOM is, it is a document model without any functionality. That means you learned HTML and JavaScript. In HTML, how to integrate JavaScript using script container, or you can link an external JavaScript file. Do you know, first plain HTML will load. After loading plain HTML, then the script loads. That means script will not load along with HTML. First HTML loads. After HTML loaded, then the linked files will load. Means your CSS files, JavaScript files will load. That means first what will load? HTML. And that HTML is static. Static means every HTML content is loaded, but no functionality. After loading static DOM, the script is loaded. When script is loaded, then it becomes dynamic. From static to dynamic. Before the script is loaded, if there is a problem in loading the script, static DOM is loaded, but it doesn't become dynamic. That means it will not interact with you. But you will see a button, but the button will not work. Why the button is not working? Because script is not loaded. If script is not loaded, then static DOM cannot become a dynamic DOM. So what happens is, when you request the page, first it is going to load the static DOM. Static DOM means it will load only this. It will load a div. The div will have an ID. After loading the static DOM, next what happens is, this is the first step. Step 1, it will load the static DOM. After I will give here, this is as, let's say this is step 1. Actually, this is step 2. What is first step? This is step 1. Huh? In the step 1, we requested the page using an event called DOM content loaded. In the step 2, it loads the static DOM. After loading the static DOM, now once the static DOM is ready, then what it will do? Then it is going to load the index.js. It will load this index.js. That means after loading index.html, then what it is going to do is, it is going to load this index.js. It is going to load this index.js. This index.js is loaded. This index.js is loaded. That means first HTML is loaded, then index is loaded. What index contains? Index contains all the dynamic functionality. Whatever logic, whatever functionality, whatever components your application needs, everything is defined in which location? Index. Now what happens is, this index.js is loaded into your content. When index.js is loaded, that means this is which step? This is step 3. That means in step 3, the index is loaded. Once index is loaded, now what will happen is, this static DOM means once it is loaded, the static DOM is converted into what? Dynamic DOM. The static DOM is converted into dynamic DOM. Once it is loaded, the static DOM is converted into dynamic DOM. That means now once a script is loaded, your application starts functioning. The process of converting static DOM to dynamic DOM, this process, that means the process of converting static to dynamic, this entire process, that means here I will give a simple point. Actually, so the process of converting a static DOM into dynamic DOM, dynamic DOM is known as, this process is called as bootstrapping. We call it as bootstrapping. The process of converting static DOM into dynamic DOM is called as bootstrapping. Bootstrap is different, bootstrapping is different. If anyone asks you in interview what is Bootstrap, Bootstrap is a component library for building UI, user interface. What is bootstrapping? In Angular, in React, in jQuery, in Vue, any technology, the concept of bootstrapping is the process of converting a static one into dynamic. A static one loads first, but it will not respond. Once it becomes dynamic, then it starts responding. JavaScript, jQuery, Angular, React, any technology which uses JavaScript, it have to undergo a process called bootstrapping. That means it should be converted in every technology, first static DOM. After that, it becomes dynamic. That means whatever library required, it will be loaded. After the library is loaded, now it becomes dynamic. That means it starts interacting now. So this is first level. This is the first level. This is one high level. Remember, before this, one more level is there, which I explained already. How your page is requested, that also I showed you in routing now. Right? In routing, I explained another flow before this flow. That means how client request will come to server. How client request will come to server, I explained a flow, routing table, routing engine, HTTP handler, remember na? That means that is the first layer. In the first layer, according to the routing engine, the request will work. In the second layer, this is after routing. That means after the process, how it is loading the content. This is the second phase. First phase already I showed you in routing. If you remembered, I will save this so that I can upload this to you. I will save in our project folder. This is life cycle. So life cycle 1. Okay. Actually, where I explained that high level, here I showed you. What is this? This is from client side. When request comes, the request will go to HTTP server, web server. In the web server, there will be a handler. That handler will pass the request to routing engine. Routing engine will verify from the routing table. And once the routing table is satisfied with your request, then it is going to send the index. Am I right? Based on the routes that you have defined, it will send the index. After sending the index, what will happen? I explained here. After that, what will happen? I am explaining here. Understood? Already first level we discussed in routing concept. So after that routing, generally index will be loaded, and that phase I explained now. So how index is loaded, how the process happens. All these three I will upload one by one so that you can get a clarity. So this phase understood, everyone? So when client makes a request, means I will explain from the first point. When client makes a request will come to HTTP server. In HTTP server, there will be a routing engine. That routing engine will verify whether your requested path is available in the app. From route table, it will verify. After verifying that it is available, now this will happen. What will happen? Index page will load on which event? Index page will load on which event? DOM content loaded. When it loads index page, it is a static one. After loading index page, it will load index.js. Once index.js is loaded, the static DOM becomes a dynamic and it starts interacting. This process is called, bootstrapping. Bootstrapping is the process of doing this. Now we will see from here to here what happens. That means we will see how it is going to render and how it is going to work. So let's see what happens now. Next phase is actually this is your React application. This is a React application. In React application, you have all the parts same. Index.html is there. Index.js is there. In index.js, it is rendering which component? Suppose it is rendering home. Am I right? In index.js, in the startup, which component is defined? Home. Home component is defined. So index.html, index.js, and index.js is rendering home. Now how this home component loads? That means the request is successful for which component? Home. Then how the home component loads? How this component is going to load? Let's see the process now. First step, what will happen is in the first phase, so in the first phase, what will happen here is your request is successful to home. Then what is the first point is React creates. This is the first phase. What happens? React creates a component object. Component object. React creates a component object. This is the first phase. In the first phase, React creates a component object. That is the first thing. React is going to create the component object. Which component object? We are requesting the component also. So we are requesting the component. It is going to create that component object. Creates the component object. It is going to create the component object because already you learned that we are discussing about class component cycle. No? That means what is the class component name? Class component, suppose class is home. It is extending what? React.component. Then how a class will work? How do we access the members of class? How a class is going to work? A class cannot work directly. First, what will happen? An object is created for this class. Am I right? This internally happens. You don't need to do that. Whenever a component is requested, how component will work? First, because component is a class, what React will do? To use that component, it will create an object for that component. That means what is the first step happens here? When you request a component, first the component class is loaded. After loading the component class, a component object is created. And can you tell me who is responsible for creating this component object? Who is responsible for creating this component object? Constructor, na? That means constructor, here constructor creates component object. It is going to create the component object. Now, can you tell me what are the activities performed in this phase? What are the activities performed in the construction phase? The first phase of every component of class is construction phase. In construction phase, what activities a component does? If you see the syntax of class component constructor, what we discussed in different examples, in constructor, what we written? In constructor, what we written? Tell me one by one. In constructor, we written super. What is that super? Super is nothing but it inherits all the base class features. What else you written? State. That means the state is configured while constructing. What else? The state is configured while constructing. What else? Yesterday we learned that events also registered while constructing. Am I right? State is configured while constructing. Events are registered while constructing. Properties are also configured while constructing. We are using properties today. They are also defined while constructing. So in the construction phase, what are the activities happen? In the constructor phase, what activities will happen? State is configured. Am I right? Events are registered. Events are registered to use state. Am I right? Events are registered to use state and properties are configured. Properties are configured. State is configured. Events are registered to use state and properties are configured. What else? What else happens in the construction phase? Actually, state is configured and state is initialized with values also. That means state is initialized with the values. That means is it necessary that state is empty? After state is configured, state can be initialized with the values, not assigned with values. They are initialized with values. State is configured, state is initialized with values, events are registered, properties are configured. These all things happen while creating the component. This is the first phase. So what is the first phase of every component? So in the first phase, what happens? In the first phase, first component is created. Am I right? In the first phase, component is created. And when component is created, the responsibility of creating component is taken by a constructor, and that constructor will perform all these functionalities. At the time of creating component, all these will happen. After that, after creating the component, what is the second phase? The second phase is after the component is created, the second phase is called mount phase. We have a mount phase. First phase, create. After that, mount phase. So mount phase, actually, this is the mount phase. What happens in the mount phase is component is mounted. Component is mounted and mount actions are defined. Mount actions are defined by using two methods. One is component will mount and we have component did mount. We have two methods. component will mount, component did mount. Component will mount and component did mount. These two methods are performed. These two actions are defined. That means these two are handled. After creating the component, what is the immediate phase? After creating the component mount phase will happen. And mount phase is controlled by two methods. Component will mount, component did mount. Will mount is pre-loading and mount is after loading. That means will mount means preloading. Before loading, set up the environment. And did mount means after loading. That means finished loading. Before loading and after finished loading. You can define actions on before loading and define actions after loading. Now tell me, in the mount phase, what activities are performed? In mount phase, what are the activities performed? Can you tell? What are the activities performed in mount phase? Before mount phase, state is configured. In mount phase, what will happen is, in mount phase, generally in mount phase, state is assigned with values. Am I right? State is initialized with values in the creation. After that, state can be assigned with values by using which method? It uses which method? Set state method. It uses set state to assign values, na? It uses set state to assign values. That means in the mount phase, it is going to set the state. Okay, what else? In the mount phase, another action performed is actually in the mount phase, the data binding will work. Data binding will work. Style binding will work. Class binding will work. Class binding will work. And events are subscribed to methods. Events are subscribed to methods. I already told you event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber. Whatever events you return, they are connected to their relative methods. They are subscribed to their relative methods. Then only event can work. So what happens in this mount phase? In the mount phase, state is assigned with values. Data binding will happen. Data binding is nothing but bringing the data from state and displaying in the UI. Bringing the styles and applying styles, and bringing the classes and applying the classes. All this will happen in which phase? Mount. That means your component contains styles, your component contains data, your component contains classes. All the effects are applied to component. Classes are applied, styles are applied, data is displayed. In which phase? All this happens in which phase? Mount. In the mount phase, these all actions are performed. These all activities are performed in the mount phase. After this is performed, that means this is the mount phase. After mount phase is performed, this is the second step actually. That means after the constructor, after the construction, this is the mount. The mount phase is going to work. In the mount phase, it is going to do all these activities. After the mount phase is completed, another phase will happen. After the mount is done, after the mount phase, we will have a phase called render phase. After the mount phase, we will have a render phase. This is actually, render is a common phase. What will happen in the render phase? After the mount phase happens, what will happen? Whatever the result is generated, that result is rendered as an output into the UI. Am I right? That means whatever result is there, that result is rendered into the UI. Actually, that is in the UI. Just I will put here something like that, means that is rendered in the UI part. That means it is rendered in the user interface. Usually this application have an UI. In the UI phase, it is going to render. Am I right? In the render is going to render the result into the UI. It is going to render everything into the UI. Now, what is the first phase? Component created. Second phase, what? Component mounted. Component created is controlled by whom? Constructor. Component mount is controlled by whom? Two methods. What are those? Component will mount, component did mount. These are the two methods. They will control the mounting. After mounting, it will be rendered. Now, what happens is, after the mount phase, another phase is, after the mount phase, we usually have an, after the mount phase, we are going to have another option that is called, we will have an update phase. We will have an update phase. After the mount phase, we will have an update phase. There is an update phase here. After the mount phase, we will have an update phase. Now, what happens in this update phase? Component is mounted. It is ready. It is showing the result. When the update phase occurs, and what happens in the update phase? Update phase is nothing but it will fire up whenever any change happened in the UI. That means we discuss a two-way binding now. That means in update phase, what will happen in the UI if any change occurred? That means what will happen? Events will fire up. Events will fire up. Events will fire up. That is the first thing. What happened in mount phase? Events fired up. Huh? In mount phase, events will not fire up. In mount phase, event will be subscribed. That means which event should use which method. They are just connected, but events will not execute the methods. When events will execute the methods, events will execute the methods in which phase? Update. So in update phase, events will fire up. When events fire up, what will happen? When event fire up, actions are executed. Am I right? Actions are executed. After actions are executed, what will happen? Results are computed. Results are computed. Results are computed. Means whatever results are there, they are computed. After results are computed, what should happen? Results are stored in state. The results are stored in the state. Whatever result comes, that will be stored in the state. After the results are stored in the state, what will happen? After the results are stored in state, again render will happen. Understood? That means render will happen in two phases. What are those? Render will happen in two phases. After mounting, it will render. After update also, it will render. Understood? That means after the mount phase, then what will happen? The update phase will fire up. And in the update phase, what it is going to do? In the update phase, events will fire up, events will execute, results are computed, actions are performed, whatever results are there, they are stored in the state. And finally, whatever result is stored, it is rendered again to the output. That means before events, result is present. After event, result is present. Before event, result is through mount phase. After event, result is through which phase? Update phase. After that, result is rendered finally to UI. Then last event is, what is the last event? After update is completed, now one more event will happen, and that event is nothing but that is unmount phase. Unmount phase. Here I forgot these actually update phase is maintained by two methods. This update phase is maintained by only one important method is there. That is, the method is component did update. We have a method called component did update. The update phase is managed by using a method called component did update. What this did update will do, it is going to fire up the events, it is going to collect the new data, it is going to update the new data into state, and it is going to render the new data into the UI. All this happens in which phase? Update phase. After update phase happened, then what should then? Actually, in a update phase, after the update phase happen, unmount phase will happen. What happens in unmount phase? Generally, I already explained you, if you remembered, when unmount will happen, when component will unmount. Already we discussed in function concept, na? When component will unmount, when you are moving from one component to another. When you are moving from one component to another, the current component will unmount and the new component will load. First, a new component is requested. When you request new component, the old component unmounts and the new component will load. I showed you that cycle also. In function component, I showed you the messages also. Component unmounted, component mounted, these we have learned. So when a component will unmount, when you are switching from one component to another. Now in unmount phase, this phase is actually managed by, component will unmount. Component will unmount. And when will unmount in this phase, what are the activities performed? What are the activities performed in this phase? In this phase here, the first thing is state. In this phase, in this phase, state. This is lengthy, yeah. So state is destroyed. The state is destroyed. Whatever the state allocated for a component, that state is destroyed. That is the reason you learned the state of one component is not accessible to another. Because HTTP is stateless, na? Stateless protocol. That means the state is not continued to other components. The state is destroyed. Whatever the data stored in the state is destroyed. Okay, next what will happen? Properties, props are disconnected. The properties are disconnected. And events are unsubscribed. Events are unsubscribed, properties are disconnected. Events are unsubscribed means at the mount phase, events are connected. They are disconnected now. They are unsubscribed. And the memory cleaned up. Memory cleaned up. The memory allocated for that particular component is cleaned up. These are all the activities performed in which phase? Unmount. These are all the actions performed in the unmount phase. This is unmount phase. This is the component cycle. And unmount phase doesn't depend on update and mount. After mount it can unmount. After update it can unmount. Right? Unmount is when user is moving from one phase to another. Means one component to another. So this is the component life cycle. So component life cycle contains three phases actually. What are those? Mount phase, unmount phase, and update. Mount, update, and unmount. That is the component related phases. But in every phase, before the mount phase, there is a constructor also. In every phase, what actions are performed, I explained. Remember, if you go to the official website of React and you see the life cycle diagram of component they show in their official website, you see what they will show you, I will show you here. That means the official React people in their website, what they show as component cycle, let's see. Actually, in Virtual DOM, I have them. So component life cycle is not here. Yeah, this is the official diagram, what they show to you. This is the official diagram, what they show to you. In their official website, this is the diagram. That means in their official website, this is what they show you as component lifecycle. That means what are the phases? Mounting phase, updating phase, and unmounting phase. Unmounting phase. And remember, in mounting, constructor will not happen. Before mounting, constructor will happen. That means even this diagram doesn't have a complete clarity. Right? This is the official website diagram. Anywhere you Google for React component cycle, you will see the same diagram. But with this diagram, you can't crack interviews. Because for experienced people, they ask particularly in this phase, what will happen, explain me. Right? That people know if they are very good in the architecture. That means they know the complete process, how app works. They can answer these questions. Even the official website will not guide you. Right? Because what internally happens in every phase, why we know about those phases and this website is not showing. Why we know? Because we are teaching these technologies before these technologies born. That means these kind of technologies, we built these kind of libraries. And we have seen their evolution. That means we are teaching people technologies before Google born, before Facebook born. They were not there. Google, Facebook are not there. Angular, React are not there. We have seen them how they built their technology. That means as developers, we followed them from their beginning stage. First version, how they released, what they were having in that version. Second version, how they modified, what library they were using and building. Before they were having this library, what they were having, this architecture we know. That is the reason we know that in every phase, these actions are performed. Because at high level, these all are performed internally. And anywhere online or internet, anywhere websites will not tell you all this. But in interviews, they ask. If any website, any YouTube is not teaching me all this, then why in interview they are asking me? Because they will get a clarity whether you are genuinely experienced in technology or not. Because a genuine experienced person in a technology who have experience in any library or framework, he knows in every phase what happens. That is not only in React, in Angular, React, every web technology, if these type of phases are present, same type of work happens. It is not only about React. That means any web technology, first DOM content loaded is compulsory. Static DOM is compulsory. Dynamic DOM is compulsory. These phases are same everywhere. That means web developers with experience have a complete idea of internal architecture of this. This is where many people fail in interviews. Why? Because experience, fresher, okay, fresher no need to know all this. For a fresher, simply they ask what are the phases. What are the phases? Mount phase, update phase, unmount phase. That's it. And for experienced people, entire 1-2 hours interview can happen only on mount phase. That means if you put 10 years experience, then I will conduct 1 hour interview on React.js just on component mount phase. Not other phases also, only on mount phase. Why state will work like that, how state is configured, What happens if I do this, do that in constructor? These all are important things to understand. So now you got a clarity on all these points. Huh? You understood the component lifecycle methods, how the component works. This is required for interviews. For interviews, you need to understand this life cycle. I will upload these diagrams. Huh? This is a life cycle 2. I will upload these 2 diagrams to you. So now you have a clarity on how class components work. Means internal architecture, how they are going to work and what are the various phases, right? Now, once you know this, now we will move into TypeScript. That means now we are going to learn how to build application using TypeScript. But you are new to TypeScript as a language. So first what we have to do, learn TypeScript. We will learn what is TypeScript, how TypeScript is different from JavaScript. We will learn the language concepts of TypeScript. Then we can use this TypeScript in building React application. So we will create another project with React and TypeScript. One project we created with React and JavaScript. The to-do application you finished now? You tried the complete example. Yesterday I given you some task. Have you implemented that? I asked you to try to design using MUI. You try that. By using that, you try. I given some options, validations, forms. I asked you to try, you try. Once you do that, then in tomorrow's session, we will start working with TypeScript. We will discuss what is TypeScript and we will use React with TypeScript. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue. Right.